Today on Investigate TV Plus, a shared trauma.
Unless you went through it with someone, or in our case, 500 other girls, there are no words for it.
Survivors of a notorious sexual assault case turn their scars into a source of strength.
It's grown to survivors nationally from all different cases.
We explore how their advocacy provides a voice for others.
Plus, a horrific crash on a Georgia highway killed a mother of two.
This woman lost her life for reasons that never should have happened.
But jurors in a civil trial failed to hold all defendants liable for her death.
He said, quote, "I stopped that," close quote. Said it again, said, "I'm the one that stopped that."
We take an in-depth look at the juror who claimed responsibility for the verdict, why the judge ordered a new trial, and hear from the attorney who fought for criminal consequences.
And their farm may be small potatoes.
I dug part of this here by hand.
But after 4 decades, a couple still finds inspiration from growing their field of dreams.
In-depth stories that inform and inspire. You're watching Investigate TV Plus.
Hundreds of young female athletes, nearly 3 decades of sexual abuse, one doctor. In January of 2018, a judge ordered former USA Gymnastics and Michigan State University Dr. Larry Nassar to spend the rest of his life in prison for what's described as the largest sexual assault scandal in the history of sports. The accusations of sexual abuse at the hands of Nassar came from both the little-known and famous, including Olympic gold medal gymnast Simone Biles. I'm Tisha Powell.
And I'm Lee Zurich. Since his criminal conviction, combined payouts on the civil cases brought by Nassar's victims have totaled more than $1 billion. Among the settlements, Michigan State University agreed to distribute $500 million to survivors, USA Gymnastics $380 million. And in April 2024, the U.S. Justice Department paid out nearly $139 million after an investigation found the FBI failed to do its job. But for the survivors of his abuse, the financial settlements won't remedy the human cost.
As reporter Ann Emmerich shows us, their healing involves raising awareness and reaching out to other victims.
Take your time when you're ready.
To Larry, today I'm speaking to you as my 10-year-old self.
Your desire to help was nothing more than a facade for your desire to harm.
What I'd hoped was a legitimate medical procedure was in fact a sexual assault.
Money does not take away the pain.
Every single sister survivor would give back every penny, every media report, every notoriety that has come their way if this never happened.
To this day, I still don't know how he could have been allowed to do this for so long.
While my mind heals and filters out the evil sickness that you unwillingly bestowed upon my body, your mind will get darker and darker.
You abused the trust that I and so many others put in you for your own sexual gratification.
I feel my own sense of guilt because I was 16 years old. And I should have stopped this monster from hurting other girls because I knew that what he did to me was wrong.
Our pain is all the same, and our stories are all important.
Years of allegations and disregard culminated in a public scandal that destroyed families, careers, and trusted institutions.
This is what it looks like when institutions create a culture where a predator can flourish unafraid and unabated.
27 years after the first report of sexual abuse at the hands of former Dr. Larry Nassar, the criminal case is closed, and the last legal settlement has been paid out to survivors.
The money doesn't help. It's there for their treatment. It is there for their inability at times to work. It's there for them to be made whole when someone took away very important parts of their body.
Trauma, Nassar survivors say, will always be a part of their life.
Trauma alters your brain. And so people who've experienced trauma actually have an overactive fear center within their brain, within the amygdala in their brain. And that means that when I'm put in situations where other people may just feel kind of stressed, I can actually go into a fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response.
Grace French is learning to rewire her brain by turning her pain into power. She founded the Army of Survivors. The nonprofit is dedicated to bringing awareness, accountability, and transparency to sexual violence against athletes.
The Army of Survivors started with just the survivors of this particular case, but since then it's grown to survivors nationally from all different cases and all different perpetrators and all different lived experiences, as well as survivors globally.
Survivors working together to prevent others from suffering bruises they say never go away.
It's always there, and it's always something that people can push on. It's just learning how to manage that pain and learning when to step away so people don't push as hard on that bruise.
For Lindsay Lemke Hall, it wasn't just Larry Nassar who caused the trauma. It was also the adults who allowed him to get away with it for years.
I still struggle with the fact that there are people out there who think they did no wrong, who seemingly had no consequences, and that's just something I just have had to work through every day.
The former Michigan State gymnast is now a mother, expecting her second daughter.
There are things that they trigger you, and unfortunately, when you don't expect them, it kind of puts you in a position of, how the heck am I going to deal with this? Not only for me, but so that way I don't project this onto my kids.
Struggles she says no amount of money can fix, and few other than her sister survivors can understand.
Unless you went through it with someone, or in our case, 500 other girls, there are no words for it. So that bond and that support that we have even so many years later is really, really important.
A bond and support that includes the judge who presided over the criminal case.
The strength that they showed was a gift to me, a gift to the world. They are a gift. So they use me as sometimes a sounding board, sometimes a resource, and sometimes a mom.
A mom revealing a full circle moment in the scandal. Judge Aquilina says she recently had to undergo pelvic floor therapy, the same treatment Nassar used to abuse young athletes.
What I learned is that it's for a very specific purpose. It's used for old people like me. I'm old, I admit it, and proud of it. And what he did was absolutely illegal, wrong, and should have never happened, and certainly should have never happened in the way he did it, ungloved, without lubricant, on children for purposes like sprained ankles. Ultimately, rape is the murder of a woman's soul. How do you give that back?
I spoke with other Nassar survivors over the phone who did not want to go on camera. Many described joyful moments in their life destroyed by a trigger from Larry Nassar's abuse. They all said settlement money is the only way to hold large institutions accountable for his crimes. If you or someone you know is the victim of sexual abuse, you can call the National Sexual Assault Hotline at 1-800-656-4673. Confidential support is available 24 hours a day. In Lansing, Michigan, I'm Ann Emmerich.
A family who waited more than 2 decades for justice is left in legal limbo by a jury's verdict.
I was shocked. Made no sense.
Just ahead, we take you inside their deliberations and show you who may have swayed their decision.
Then later, an exercise that considers all bodies and abilities.
So we are going to start wherever you would like.
We explain how adaptive yoga builds strength for the mind and body.
In the criminal justice system, a fair trial depends on an impartial jury.
Their job includes listening to testimony, determining the facts, following the law, and eventually reaching a verdict. But when a juror isn't truthful during the process, it can lead to serious consequences, including criminal charges.
In Georgia, a judge ordered a new trial after jurors failed to hold 2 of 3 defendants accountable in a wrongful death case involving the death of a mother of 2. Investigative reporter Andy Perotti takes an in-depth look at the evidence and the controversial verdict.
When Patricia Heller left the Atlanta airport in 2003 in a taxi, she would never reach her final destination.
The cab driver that was driving too fast lost control of the car, left the roadway and smashed into a grove of trees.
It happened on Interstate 85 in Hapeville, toward downtown Atlanta. The roads were slick after a recent rain. The impact of the crash killed the 51-year-old immediately, leaving behind 2 children and Ed, her husband. The taxicab driver pleaded guilty to vehicular homicide for driving with unsafe tires. The incident report shows the tires were bald with no tread. Patricia's family filed a lawsuit against the driver, the taxicab company, and an Atlanta city inspector who passed the taxi's safety inspection just a day before the crash. James Potts is the family's attorney.
You know, this woman lost her life for reasons that never should have happened.
After 20 years of civil litigation, including the Georgia Supreme Court, the case was finally put in the hands of a Fulton County jury this past March. When the jurors reached their verdict, they found the taxicab company liable for Patricia's death, but not the driver or the city inspector.
What was your reaction?
I was shocked. And for these jurors not to also hold the driver who pled guilty to vehicular homicide and unsafe tires, and the city inspector made no sense.
After the trial, the family's attorney spoke to some of the jurors. He wanted to know why they didn't hold the city inspector and the driver liable too. According to court documents, one of the jurors spoke up, claiming he was responsible for the verdict. That juror is Scott Kelly, seen here in his LinkedIn profile.
He said, quote, "I stopped that," close quote. Said it again, said, "I'm the one that stopped that."
Court transcripts show Scott identified himself as a corporate attorney during the jury selection process. But according to trial records, that wasn't the full truth. The Supreme Court of Illinois suspended Scott from practicing law in 2008 for withholding $10,000 from a client and other allegations, and since then has never been a licensed attorney in any state. Prospective jurors in Fulton County signed this form pledging to tell the truth about their occupation and watch this video.
That's why it's important to be completely honest and truthful during the jury selection process.
Patricia's family appealed the jury's verdict, claiming Scott's actions were misconduct and he misrepresented his professional credentials. In July, the judge ordered a new trial, writing the jury's verdict was contrary to the weight of the evidence. The order does not address the family's claims of jury misconduct.
He was not a lawyer. You got to tell the truth.
I was really upset.
We reached out to that juror, Scott Kelly, but he declined to be interviewed for this story. In his court ruling, the judge did not specifically name juror misconduct that we mentioned in our story as a reason for ordering a new trial.
Andy, what's the status of the retrial?
The juror's verdict to hold the taxicab liable for Patricia's death still holds. It awarded $25 million in damages to her family. A new trial date has not been scheduled.
Still to come, a Vermont couple has been harvesting goodness for decades.
If you eat one of our potatoes, you will not go back to the grocery store.
We get to the root of their success.
But first, an exercise that helps connect the mind and body.
It's yoga for anyone and everyone.
How people with physical challenges benefit from adaptive yoga.
Maybe you're a little intimidated to try yoga because you worry you won't be flexible or strong enough to hold the poses.
Yeah, but those who teach yoga will tell you all you need to practice is a body in any form. A special class called Adaptive Yoga considers all bodies, abilities, and backgrounds. The practice is accessible to everyone and allows poses to be changed to address someone's specific needs.
Reporter Carrie Beal explores how the benefits of adaptive yoga go well beyond the physical.
So we are gonna start wherever you would like.
In a studio that overlooks the Swamp Rabbit Trail.
how you can turn obstacles you face into opportunities.
It's a class that encourages all.
But just try to get really comfortable.
It's called adaptive yoga.
And as you breathe out, it helps it float down.
It really helps me with my spasticity in my back between my shoulder blades and my legs.
A drunk driver hit Hunter Lawrence in 2020, leaving him paralyzed from the chest down.
It broke several ribs, broke my sternum, lacerated my spleen, and collapsed my left lung.
To stay healthy, he needs to continue moving his lower body.
And then as I cue you, you'd squeeze your bottom.
Otherwise, he can end up with a serious blood clot.
And exhale down.
Which can turn into a pulmonary embolism and travel to your lungs and your heart.
Adaptive yoga is keeping that blood flowing.
Turn your hands out and then push the air down. Yoga allows you to practice mindfulness, breath work, and being present. And whether that's through just breath work, whether that's through moving your body, that's an important practice for everyone to have.
Amanda Madry is also trained as an occupational therapist, so she knows how to handle people with mobility challenges.
You could expect the class to be modified to fit your needs. So it really could be if you have back pain, if you have a spinal cord injury, if you have an amputation, if you have arthritis, it's yoga for anyone and everyone.
You can be sitting in a chair, lying on the ground, or using a mobility aid.
And as you breathe out, you're letting it go.
Hunter says in the year that he has taken up yoga, he has seen big changes.
Learned a lot of new stretches that I was not taught in physical therapy to adapt to being able to do yoga, specifically in the wheelchair.
And then as you exhale, just gently sweep your arm down, tucking your chin in towards your chest.
A 2017 study found that people who do adaptive yoga have significant improvements in their quality of life. And one 6-week study showed adaptive yoga may help the psychological effects of spinal cord injuries. Hunter says the breathing exercises they do in yoga also help with his anxiety and trauma from the car accident. In Greenville, South Carolina, I'm Carrie Beal.
From farm,
I pull all the weeds out. There's some potatoes.
To market. Up next, a Vermont couple shares their nearly lifelong passion for potatoes.
I'm Viv Williams with a medical mythbuster moment. If vaping is better for your lungs than smoking cigarettes, alternating between the two can reduce your risk of lung cancer. A new study blows smoke all over that myth, showing the combo of vaping and smoking cigarettes increases your lung cancer risk instead of lowering it. The research from Ohio State University Wexler Medical Center reveals people who both vape and smoke are 4 times more likely to develop lung cancer than those who just smoke. The researchers say there's still a lot to learn about the potential risks of vaping, and they say their findings are alarming considering the number of young people who use tobacco products. If you want to quit, call 1-800-QUIT-NOW for help. This research is published in the Journal of Oncology Research and Therapy. With this medical mythbuster moment, I'm Viv Williams.
A couple in Vermont isn't just married, they work as a team on their potato farm.
For decades, the Halibas have grown all types of spuds, then sold their harvest at local farmers markets.
Reporter Joe Carroll gets to the root of their partnership.
Don and Diane Haliba love their land. 200 acres in center Rutland.
He feels the best when he's out in the field.
But farming just 2.
I used to help him plant all the potatoes.
Enough to keep the 77-year-old Diane and 85-year-old Don busy.
He's a very hard worker.
The Haliba potato farm is one of the few left in the state.
Yeah.
Don's 1953 International Harvester
I'm going to be embarrassed if I don't start.
is his workhorse. It's a brief ride.
That's the way it works.
To show me the potatoes unearthed from the soil. The spud season, Don says, can go until early November.
I dug part of this here by hand.
The couple grows different variations of potatoes.
I use this,
Their favorite is German butterball.
the best. I might as well show you everything I do. I pull all the weeds out. There's some potatoes.
He grew up on the farm. His father had a dairy operation and also sold potatoes.
I remember my father cutting hay with horses, planting corn and all that stuff.
Don, a former machinist, went back to his childhood roots to grow potatoes.
The folks in Idaho and Maine need not worry. The Haliba farm is small potatoes. But down the hill in Rutland, they're a pretty big deal.
Don digs the potatoes, but Diane harvests the green at the Rutland Farmers Market. They're celebrating 50 years in operation. The Halibas have been here for 40.
If you eat one of our potatoes, you will not go back to the grocery store.
Why so?
Because they're grown with love.
The couple sells at 2 other markets each week.
Thank you.
Back at the homestead, Don's root cellar dates back to his father's time.
So potatoes don't like the light?
No, they'll turn them, they'll get green.
He stores potatoes, but not too many. The potatoes sell well at the market, but farming can be backbreaking.
Do you ever feel like...
Sweating?
Yeah.
Sometimes. It's like sort of like a therapy, I guess you'd call it. I forget all the problems in the world.
Don's field of dreams keeps growing.
They still got quite a ways to grow yet.
That is hard work, but it keeps them young too.
Yeah, you know, they just get out there and just keep on going and growing these great potatoes that are better than the grocery store.
I heard that. Need to try some of that. All right, that's it for us here on Investigate TV Plus. I'm Lee Zurich.
And I'm Tisha Powell. Thanks for watching. On the next Investigate TV Plus, a healthcare disparity in America.
Let's get to the bottom of what's really going on with Black women's health.
We take an in-depth look at why more Black women die from cancer than other groups, and how doctors hope a groundbreaking study could help save lives.